Here we are on the front of our Keystone Alpine Avalanche Series 390DS. We're going to do a walkthrough on our unit just like your technician did on date of delivery. We're going to touch on some components here. If you want more information on these components, or if your brand differs from what's in this walkthrough, you can find that in the HAPS Helpful Hacks section playlist of our YouTube channel for Great American RV. We're going to start up front here. We have our 7-way plug, which transfers all of our lights from our truck over to our unit for our blinkers, our brake lights, our running lights. We also have a battery charge line off of your truck that will charge here and go to your battery and help maintain that battery while you're traveling down the road. We also have our brakes from our brake controller in our truck that will control the brakes on our towed vehicle. Here we have our breakaway line. This breakaway line needs to be attached to somewhere other than the fifth wheel hitch head itself, because in the event that that breaks and goes with the trailer, it's intended for this line to pull out the pin and activate the brakes on our camper and bring it to a stop. This can only be done with a good 12-volt system on our camper because it will rely on those batteries. So this is the first compartment under your fifth wheel. We can see here, this is a system for our hydraulics. We have our tank down here with our hydraulic fluid. We only want to add hydraulic fluid when all of our jacks are retracted, as well as our slide outs. If we don't do that, then this will not read properly. You'll actually have hydraulics in those lines and you can overfill it and make a huge mess. So never add anything to this or check that level unless everything is fully retracted on your unit. Now you do have your motor up here. We talked about the override for this system. This is where that motor is going to be, and these are where the valves are going to be that you would follow the directions for that override in the event that something happened. You also have a breaker down here at the bottom for the jack system. It's a 12-volt breaker. If this motor isn't running, you want to go and check that. Back here, you'll also notice your battery disconnect. That battery disconnect is for if you're storing your unit and you're not plugged in, you want to disconnect your battery and save the voltage on it. We just click that to the off, and that will disconnect the battery from the rest of your camper so it can't drain it down, and your solar system can still charge that system while it's disconnected. We'll talk about the solar in a second. If you are charging your unit plugged in, we want to make sure we leave that on. That way our converter, which changes voltage from 110 to 12 volts, it's essentially a battery charger, can charge that battery system while you're plugged in and storing your unit. So storing it plugged in, disconnect on; storing it unplugged, disconnect off. So we have another disconnect right here up top. That disconnect is for our inverter, hiding behind this panel right here. That inverter is to change voltage from 12 volts to 110. So if we're dry camping, we don't have a place to plug in, we can pull from our battery and change voltage to 110 to operate some of our inverted outlets to run some small appliances in our units. Now our inverter system does have a 250 amp 12 volt fuse up there. If it's not working properly, we want to check that first. We also want to check and make sure that our inverter is on. You also are going to have a reset switch on the inverter itself too. You can check to see if that is tripped. We do have the controls for that on the inside. We'll go over a little bit later. We have a switch back here. This is for our docking lights. That is controlling the lights on the front cap of your unit. Down below that is our smart solar controller. That converts our solar energy from the rooftop down to a controllable voltage that will charge our batteries. So that does all that smart thinking for us. We can just not worry too much about that. It does give us some monitoring lighting on the side to let us know what it's doing. But below that, we have our solar disconnect. If we want to turn off that solar stuff, we can just click it off and that solar system is down and dead. Now, once again, I said if we turn the regular battery disconnect off, it's not going to affect our smart solar system. It will still charge those batteries during that time. It does not disconnect that component. Only time that smart solar won't work is if we turn that disconnect off, or of course if we don't have sunlight. Up above your inverter, you're also going to have your transfer switch already installed on here. This is for if you upgraded to a generator, and this would transfer the power from the shore power to the generator whenever connected. In that other compartment to your right, you'll also find where that generator can be installed and fabricated in. And if we look up top, we'll find that controller for our Bluetooth system, and that is where our LCI leveling system is located. Here we are on the driver's side of our unit. We can see above me we have our slide out, and this is a cable-driven slide. On your rear slide out, you have a cable-driven slide there as well. Your middle slides are going to be hydraulic slides. If you want more information on any of these videos, you can find them in the Haps Helpful Hacks section of our YouTube channel. In the front here, we have our little compartment for our LCI Titan leveling system. That touchscreen will run you through the auto level and everything. We'll go over that now. So here we are on that base camp touchscreen for our Titan jacks. We can see at the bottom left corner we have a quick shortcut to turn our lights off and on the jacks themselves. If we hit this question mark right here, we have a QR code, which can generally also be found in that LP compartment or one of the other doors. You'll see that sticker, and it's going to bring you to literature on these specific Titan jacks. It'll run you through the same stuff that I'm gonna run you through. It'll also go over information on how to override these jacks in the event that your pump fails, and how to manually retract them or extend them. So moving in, we can see our default pin, which is from the factory, 5241. And we hit the green check, and we're on it. So immediately we're gonna go into our options to start off with. I'm gonna show you that if we go into our current level, this is gonna tell us what the level of our unit is. If we go into auto level, this is going to be our different set points. We'll go over that information here shortly. If we go to jack lights off and on, we can adjust the brightness and the timer on how long we want them to run. Turn them off and on here. We have our different modes, our manual mode, which is if we want to manually extend or retract the jacks. We click that screen again. Our front jacks are gonna run simultaneously. You can't do those individually. You'll hit extend and retract. If we wanna turn those off, click them again. We can do our rear individually, left or right, and extend or retract. Get out of that screen, go back into our options and modes. We have our arrival. Now these are the different screens that you're gonna see dependent on where you are in your camping trip. So arrival is right when you get to the campground. The system detects all your jacks are up, so it's gonna assume that you are arriving, and it'll come up with the bigger option of extending land gear, retracting landing gear, and then auto level, which are the options that you would generally use right when you arrive at the campsite. Our next mode is our auto level. It's just going to give you the different set points here of what auto levels we can go to. Now we have our factory set auto level, which is going to be our 0 point null. It's what we consider level by the factory. They take a 4-foot level, put it in the unit. Now if you find where the factory setting is off or not to your desire, you can hit this 3 dots up here at the top right, and that will bring you to be able to change that setting. We hit change, and just like our manual mode, we can select the jacks that we want to extend and retract and get a 4-foot level, put it in your unit, and you can adjust it. When you're done, you'll hit set, and it will save that factory setting. Now, every time you go to auto level from that point, that will be the setting that it goes to. Now you have your set points 1, 2, and 3. This is for options such as maybe you're storing your unit. Let's say that's what we want our set point 1 at. We can hit those 3 dots on the side and we can change it. And let's say we want to nose down our camper or nose up our camper so the water will run off of our unit. We can put these jacks whatever formation we want and kick it up within a 5-degree slant. It won't do over that. And it won't save that set point. So keep that in mind. If it doesn't save, you're probably out of that 5-degree margin. Once it's set, it'll bring you out of that screen. And now when you hit set point 1, it'll go to that nose up or nose down position, whatever you chose it to be. Now set point 2 and set point 3 can be whatever you desire, the same thing. So let's say, you know, these campers are heavy on your truck sometimes, and you have to pull up to a dump station to dump, and you're nose down, and you have a pipe that points to the back of the unit, so all that water isn't really draining out of the pipe. You can do set point 2 for your front landing gears, just lifting the camper up enough to add a little slope to it, and allow that water to drain the rest of the way out of that pipe. So you can be creative and have whatever options you want set in there. Our last mode is our departure mode. This would be after you've auto leveled and everything, you're ready to go home. This is likely the screen that's going to pop up. So we would return to hitch height. Now this height is going to be the height that you were at just before you hit auto level. Generally that height is going to be where your truck disconnected from your camper. So your hitch should go back up to that hitch height, and when you press that button, it's going to hit that point. Now we can extend and retract manually to adjust that if we're a little bit off. And when we're done, we're hooked up to our truck, we know that that hitch is secure, everything's good, we can hit retract all and all of our jacks will come up. Our next option in here is dark theme or light theme. We can go ahead and choose that option. That just changes the background of our screen. Now, like I said, every time you open this up, if you've done something different, it's going to generally have a different screen based on what the level of those jacks are. So like I said, we unlocked it here and it comes to that extend landing gear. Basically it's saying we're in arrival mode. If we went into auto level and the screen blacked out after that, we came back to it, it's probably going to have auto hitch height as that option. So whatever the screen pops up to, you have the option to go into a different one by going into options, then modes, and it's going to once again bring you to a different screen. We can run manual mode, we can run our auto level mode. No matter what, you can get to any of these screens. It's very repetitive. You just have to go through the options and get them. Otherwise, it's going to suggest what option you want next in order to run your jacks. Now, you can also hook this up to your Bluetooth on your phone. We'll show you how to do that next. So this is the tag that I mentioned earlier that you can generally find in one of your compartment doors. And if not, you can find it on the actual brains of the auto leveling system, generally found in that front storage compartment or your pass-through compartment on your unit. So what we want to do is download our LCI One Control app. We can scan this QR code right here. This will bring us to the App Store to download that app. Once we've done that, you'll have to enter a series of information, including the make, model, and year of your unit, as well as your VIN number. Once you've done that, you'll scan this QR code right here, and this will grant you access to the system. Then it's going to ask you for a password. You'll enter your password into the system, and then it'll bring you into the options to be able to control that app. Now, we do have the information on that app. It is pretty repetitive to that screen. It gives you a few more options in there. We have more information on the full video on our Titan system. So we talked about how to hook up to our Bluetooth. That sticker is right here in our LP compartment. This gives you also a shortcut operation on how to operate some of that system that we went over. It'll also give you, once again, those QR codes that you can access the literature from LCI as well as that Bluetooth system. In this compartment here, we have our dual propane tanks with our dual propane regulator. Now, to operate that dual propane regulator, you'll have to have both tanks on. You can select which one you want to operate off of. You have a little lens right here. If that lens is red, that is going to indicate that that tank is empty, whatever one you are pointing at. Now, once your system is on, you operate, you rock and roll. Now, if this tank runs dry, it's automatically going to kick over to this tank, but this indicator is only going to indicate the level of this tank right to the left. Now, once this tank kicks in, then that system runs dry. Of course, you're out of propane. If you want to kick it over to this one, because this one's empty, you can do that and have that other tank filled. Now, behind that, we have our pass-through compartment right here, which is also access on the other side. And here we have our control center, our convenience center for all of our water fixtures and our dump station. We're going to go over that right now. So here we are in our convenience center. Up top, we have our Key TV system. This over here is our satellite port. If we have an external satellite that we set up at the campground, we can run that wire through the hole down here at the bottom, hook it up here. Then on the interior or exterior, we hook up from the satellite to the receiver with a coax, and then an HDMI to the TV. If we install a rooftop satellite system, we can hook that up right here. That wire is already ran to our rooftop, and we can connect it right here without having to run a new wire. Our cable system, if we have cable at the campground, we hook it up right there. and it will send that to our TVs. Here we have our quick connect for our coiled hose. We can hook up and have a hose shower outside with hot and cold water. Our tank flush right here, this is for our black tank. It's like a jet inside that tank to help flush it out. We'll go over that information when we get over to that. Just remember that that's where it's at. Our freeze guard winterization system. This is for when we're winterizing our unit and preparing for that cold weather. So if we look down here, we also have our low point drains down here. That's where that comes in as well. To start that process, you'll empty out your low point drains, and this will drain all the water out of your system. And then we're going to go over to our winterization valve right here. We're going to turn that from off to on, like so. And then we would get a hose, hook it to here, and put the other end in RV antifreeze. We kick on that water pump, and it will pull from that RV antifreeze jug and insert antifreeze into the pipes of your unit. And from there, we go and shut off each one of these connections as that antifreeze starts to come out of those ports. Once everything's done, then we'll go ahead and shut this system off, and we'll turn back to our off on winterize, and our unit is prepped. Then from there, we also pour some antifreeze down our P-traps, and that will prepare us for the winter. Our city water connection is where we hook up if we have water at the campground. We come here, we hook that water hose up to it, turn it on, and that will supply water to our fixtures. When we use that city water connection, we need to make sure we're in normal flow right here. Now, if we don't have a city water connection, we're dry camping wherever we go. Before we leave on our trip, we want to fill our fresh tank. Fresh tank is that onboard water system, and we hook our city water connection here while we're at the house still. We come over here and we go to fill. Go to fill, we turn that water hose on, and we will be filling that tank. You can monitor the level of that by your touch screen on the interior. Now, once we're done filling, we disconnect that hose, we go back to normal flow here, and we can initiate using that water by clicking our water pump on our touch screen on the interior, and that will pull from that tank and supply water to our fixtures. If we are on city water connection, we want to turn that water pump off. If our fresh tank is empty, we want to turn that water pump off. Speaking of empty fresh tank, you don't want to carry more than what you need because this does add weight to our trailer. And if we are not using it, no point in keeping it in there and letting it become stagnant. So empty that water out. We'll show you the location of that in a little while. Here we have our black tank and gray tank valves. So our black tank is our sewage. Everything from our toilet is going into that black tank. Our sewage, our toilet paper, and should be nothing else. We don't want to put any other items in there that don't belong. So our black tank needs to stay closed all the time when we're camping unless we are dumping that tank. We do that because if we allow the water to escape that tank, then the solids that are in there are going to dry up, it's going to damage that tank, and it's not going to be right. So we need to make sure we keep this closed while we're camping. When we do get to that dump station, or we have one at our campsite, we're ready to dump because it's full or we're done camping, we hook up that sewage hose connection, put it in the port, and then we open this black tank valve. From there, our system will begin to drain out. That's where your black tank flush up there comes in handy. You hook a water hose up to that, and that jet port will help rinse out that tank system. Now, we can close that black tank off with the black tank flush running, but I would only do it for about 30 to 60 seconds, and then we open it back up to help flush some of those solids out. You don't want to leave it running for long because you can overflow your black tank into your unit, and that gets nasty. So flush out your tank system. You're going to have to do it a couple times to have that monitor reading properly, and then we want to close it off, add a couple of gallons of water to it, either through the toilet or with your black tank flush, and leave that water in there even when you're storing it, and add some chemicals. This will help degrade anything else that's left in it. Our gray tanks, however, these come from our showers and our sinks. You have two of them, one for your shower and your sink in your bathroom, and the other one is going to be for your kitchen. Now, these can stay open all the time as long as you have that hose connection at the campground. At your campsite, you can go ahead and put that in. They can drain all the time, or you can leave them closed and dump them whenever they get full, whatever you prefer. Of course, if you're dry camping, you don't have that connection, you want to close them off. Your hot and cold low point drains right here, we talked about that with your winterization, and you have that port right here that all of these hoses can come through. Behind our convenience center, we have our Girard tankless water heater. This is a propane operated device that will give you endless hot water. The controls for this device are in the bathroom. We're going to go over that information when we go inside. Behind that, we have our furnace. That is also a gas operated appliance operated through our thermostat on the inside. Now, both of these have exhaust on them that will get a little warm and even hot, so keep that in mind when you're in this area. Below that, we have our marker light. Our marker light on both sides are pre-wired for the Furrion side camera and backup camera system. So your unit is pre-wired with this. If we purchase the tri-camera system from Furrion, all we have to do is add those cameras on each side, and then you're also pre-wired for that backup camera in the back. Now below our J-wrap here, you'll see this black tube. That is to store your sewer hose. That sewer hose connection for the actual unit is back here in front of that middle jack. That is where you'll hook up to empty out your gray tanks and your black tanks. As we mentioned in our jacks, this is a long tube and it does kind of lean to the rear. If you do have to dump at an actual dump station, not at your campsite, that's where those set points come in handy. You can go ahead and set point to where it lifts up the front end and it'll help drain that water out without having to do a whole lot of work manually in that system. So it's a nice convenience. We'll also notice about midway on our underbelly, we have a blue line coming out with a valve on it. That line is to drain out our refrigerator, which is in our kitchen slide. So we do have a fridge in there, and your fridge has an ice maker. So that water line comes up and it goes into our fridge right here. When we want to drain that system out because we're winterizing our unit, we just want to drain the water out, we'll open that valve and that will drain the water out of that ice maker system. Whenever we are not wanting to do that, want to make sure that valve's closed. Otherwise, when you hook your city water up or you turn on your water pump, water is going to shoot out of that line. We can see on our kitchen slide, we do have a vent over here. This is for our microwave fan. If we want to exhaust air, and when we initiate that fan, we need to make sure that the tabs are open on that door. Otherwise, the air isn't going to actually exhaust out. Whenever we store our unit, we want to close those tabs so no insects or rodents can build any nests in there. Here in between our two slides, this is our bedroom slide and our kitchen slide, we'll notice a white valve just behind the axles. That white valve is there to drain out that fresh tank. Remember our onboard water storage. We'll open that valve. There's a white pipe right in front of the first axle where that water will drain out. Now behind me, we have our second gray tank system and black tank system. So this is separate from the one in the front. This is for our second bathroom and also like our kitchen area and our shower. So that water is going to drain out of here. We have two valves under the J-wrap right here to be able to operate that system. Now we talked about our black tanks. That needs to stay closed all the time. Same thing here. Gray tank can stay open, but black tank want to make sure it's closed so those solids don't dry up in that tank and cause any damage. Here on the back of our unit, of course, we have our entry door with our solid steps. We'll go over how that operates at the front entry door, and on the back, we also have our 50 amp service plug right here. It's a twist lock. We'll take that 50 amp connection, turn it to the right to lock it in, and tighten up that ring so we don't have any arcing and that plug accidentally falling out. To take it out, undo that ring, twist it to the left, and pull it out. Want to make sure we plug this in first before we plug it in over there so we don't have any arcing when we plug it in. Also want to make sure that our ACs are turned off so we don't have any surges on that compressor. You are equipped with a backup camera pre-wire already. This is in addition to that triple camera system that we can purchase, or we can do just the backup camera if we want. We already have the power wires ran. We also have a factory installed ladder back here. This factory installed ladder is used to access our roof. We need to check our sealants every 60 to 90 days. That includes the sealants on our roof as well as the sealants around our corners, our lights, our windows. We have sealant all over the place. We need to maintain that. Every 60 to 90 days, check to make sure that we don't have any cracking, openings, peelings, anything like that where water can get in. Manufacturers require this. Otherwise, they're not going to participate in any warranties due to any water leakage. So stay on top of the maintenance of your unit so it'll last for years to come. It's kind of like changing the oil in your car. You want to make sure it's maintained properly. We also want to check our roof after trips to make sure any low-lying tree limbs or anything didn't hit our rubber and cause any pokes or holes through that rubber. causing water entry as well. We can make sure we're staying on top of that, because if we don't, we're going to end up with a rotted roof. So make sure we're taking care of that too. Now here on the passenger side of our unit, in the front, we have our solar on the side system. You can scan that little QR code, it'll give you a little more information. But basically, if you are parked under trees and you still want access to solar, or you park your unit under a canopy, because whenever you store it, you can purchase the other solar panel system and place it out in the sun and hook that wire to here, and it'll feed through that smart controller in the front compartment that we talked about there, and still be able to maintain your batteries. In our front compartment right here, we have our battery storage for 2 batteries, and behind that we have our pass-through compartment. In our pass-through compartment, we have our key TV system. We'll see that hookup for our outdoor TV. We have satellite and cable access here, and we also have a 110 outlet there and one here. Both outlets are GFCI protected, so in the event that they turn off or they're not operating, we're going to go to that main GFCI outlet on the inside. We'll visit a little bit later and talk about the operation of that. That key TV system, though, you have your cable an antenna option. That'll be a coax straight to your TV. Satellite would be a coax to your receiver for DirecTV or Dish Network, and then an HDMI to your TV. Now your key TV system for all your TVs, what that does is you can swap between antenna and cable without having to worry about an antenna boost button. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. You just know you can swap between antenna and cable, and you can scan for your channels with no problem. Those old school campers that you may know about that antenna boost button, with that key TV system, you no longer have to worry about that, so it's a nice upgrade. Also down below our J-wrap on our frame, we do have a quick connect right there. That quick connect is hooked to our propane system. So we can hook an outdoor grill or anything, and it will pull from those propane tanks on the other side. So just like on the driver's side, we have another Furrion pre-wired camera system right there on that marker light to be able to add that tri-camera system. Now our entry door does have the friction controlled hinges right here. This is that way if the wind blows, it doesn't slam that door open or closed. And we also have our solid steps right there made by Lippard. In order to operate these steps, to store them, we're going to lift them up, and we have that yellow latch. You want to pull that yellow latch and make sure these tabs open up, and then put it straight down and give it a tug and make sure we're locked into that frame so it doesn't fall. To bring them down, we'll turn that lever either way and we get that system to come down. We want to make sure our entry door is open all the way, and we can drop down our steps. Now, one thing we need to make sure, once we auto level our unit and we're all leveled out where we want it to be, then we come over to our stairs and we make sure that they're level. Number one, for the safety of walking in and out of the unit. Number two, we don't want our door to hit our frame and damage the bottom lip of it. So we want to make sure those steps are level. In order to do that, we have these pins on both sides. We pull those pins out and we can extend or retract those legs to whatever level we need them to be at in order for those steps to be in their proper working order. Just a few more things before we move to the inside of our unit. Towards the rear on this passenger side, sticking out of your underbelly, you're going to have another set of red and blue lines with valves on them. Those are 2 more low point drains that you have to open up for that winterization. So you'll know that those are back there, as well as your low point drains in the front. Right under our steps on our frame, you'll notice that's where your spare tire is located. You have an attachment in that front compartment. That crank handle will insert onto that knob, and you can crank that spare tire down. Now we also have our canopy, our awning here in our patio area. That awning is 12-volt operated, as well as our lights up there, and of course we have our outdoor speakers controlled by our radio inside. So let's talk about our awning real quick. Our awning is a sunshade only. It's not intended to deflect rain, keep us dry, anything like that. It is intended to keep us from the sun. So whenever it rains, whenever the high wind, anything like that, we want to roll that awning in. If this gets damaged due to wind or rain, manufacturers are not going to cover this, and it's going to become an insurance claim. That is the responsibility of the customer. So if you leave your campground for an extended period of time, I suggest rolling it in. You see a storm coming in, roll it in. Another thing we need to take into account is we need to pitch our awning. That AC system will have some condensation that runs off of it. That means water coming out and it has the ability to pull on that awning. You might have some light dew or something in the mornings. Either way, we need to get that water off of our system. So in order to do that, we pitch our awning just a little bit. Doesn't have to be a lot. And we can do that by these two tabs on our awning arm. We can pitch it to the front or the rear. With this system, it's easy access with the steps right here to pitch it towards the rear. We squeeze those two tabs and we just pull our awning down. And like I said, 1 or 2 notches, we lock it in, and now our awning is pitched. That will allow the water runoff to come off. When we're ready to roll our awning back up, we squeeze those 2 tabs and bring it back down to the bottom. This goes for your second awning on your slide out as well. Want to do the same thing, pitch that awning so the water will run off. In our hallway, as we walk in, we'll see our control panel. Our control panel has our meters for our black tanks, gray tanks, our battery, and our fresh tanks. These LEDs right here will light up to tell you what the level of those tanks are. Now we'll also see here, this is our water pump button. This is that 12-volt operated pump that would pull from our fresh tank in order to provide water to our fixtures. Now if we have a city water connection or our tank is dry, we want to make sure that pump is off, otherwise it will burn up. And moving down the line, we have our porch lights, our hall lights, our kitchen lights, our entry lights, all of our lights. They're all 12-volt operated, and they're going to have a switch somewhere in the unit to operate them. All of our slide outs are also controlled here, another 12-volt operated devices, as well as our awning, 12-volt operated. And we do have our fan right here. This is to control our little fan on the ceiling in our living room area. We have our speed, as well as the reverse flow of that fan, whether we want to pull the air up or blow it down, and our power for that fan down at the bottom. In our hallway, we'll see our 2 thermostats for our Coleman Mach ACs. This one is going to be for our rear AC. This is going to be for our middle AC in the kitchen, and the operation is going to be the same. You're also going to have a 3rd thermostat for that 3rd AC system in your bedroom. Now we can see that system is off right now. It's going to give us our room temperature. If we want to turn that system on, we click that button 1 time, and that'll kind of wake it up. We hit it another time, and we'll see our system, our mode system down here at the bottom flash. We turn that knob, and we can go into our cool mode. Click, and again we have fan, and that is our auto high or auto low, meaning our fan will turn off when our compressor turns off, and we also have regular high and low. Now that means our fan will run all the time regardless if our AC system is operating and cooling air or not. So we can click it again, it'll initiate, or it'll automatically go over. Now we'll see our room temperature here and our set to temperature here, so that's a desired temp. If we want to change that temperature, we just turn our knob to whatever degree mark we want. We can click it and it'll go into that mode, or we can leave it and it'll go automatically into that mode. So that's our cool option. If we click it again, we can go into our heat option. Our heat option would be from our furnace, and same thing, we click OK. You're not going to see a fan option because there's no high or low on the furnace fan. It's just 1 speed. And same thing, we have our regular room temp and we have our set to temp. If we want to change that, we just begin to turn that knob and we can click it again and it sets it. Now we can turn that system off by clicking it 1 more time. Now we can click it 1 more time and we go into cool heat mode. So this mode right here, once again, we'll have our fan options, auto, high, low, or regular high, low. And this will change between the AC system and the heater to keep it at that set point. If you are in the south and you constantly battle between hot and cold, this is an awesome setting on here to be able to have, and it automatically swaps back and forth. Now we click it 1 more time and we can go into our off mode. Now one thing about our off mode is if we're off on our mode system, we can still click over to our fan and we can choose high or low, and that will be just the fan running on that AC system to where it will distribute air through your unit. It won't actually be cooling the air, it'll only just be distributing it. Now this system right here, this is for our middle AC, our kitchen. It is going to have all the same stuff, except you are only going to have a cool mode in here and not a heat mode. You're only going to have 1 thermostat that operates your heat. Down below that, we have our inverter. This inverter is to change 12 volts to 110 power. Now, this is made by Magnum. This is just a monitor for it. The inverter is in that front compartment we talked about. This is if you're dry camping. You don't have a hookup for your 50 amp service. This is to be able to invert power from your 12 volts to 110 and distribute power to select inverted outlets throughout your unit to be able to operate them and things like your fridge. So you're going to be relying on that 12 volt battery system as well as your solar system to try to help keep up with it. And if you have a large amount of batteries, then that system will run a whole lot longer. You can do your research on the solar system and inverted power to decide what type of package you want there. Now, if there is a fault, we can see on this one, it's E01. Now, this is just fault because we don't actually have that inverter hooked up, but it will give you a status report and tell you what some of those lights mean. Over here on the right, your owner's manual would tell you a whole lot more information in the event that it ever goes into a fault. Here we are in our bathroom. Now, in our bathroom, we do have a latch for our shower doors. We don't want to have that swinging around while we are traveling, so make sure you're latching it. Our shower is going to be pretty cut and dry. We have our hot and cold fixture in here. But if you are dry camping, we have an awesome feature on RVs you may not know about, on-off switch on the shower head. So this is if you're trying to conserve water whenever you are dry camping, meaning you don't have a dump station where you're at, or you're trying to conserve the amount of water you use out of your fresh tank. We can find our sweet spot for the hot, go ahead and get showered up, and when we're ready to pause and lather up, we can hit that shower head button and it'll shut off the water right here at the head. That way we can lather up and we're not wasting any water. When we're ready to rinse off, we kick it back on and we can rinse off, and this will conserve the amount of water going into your gray tank as well as the water that you use out of your fresh tank. Now, I'll give you a quick hint. When you kick this back on, point it at the wall because it's going to be a little cold at first, but that hot water will kick in. It also keeps you from having to find that sweet spot on the fixture itself. So just an option for you. If you are hooked up to city water, however, and you do have a dump station, then you don't have to worry about it. Just use it like regular. Here we have our toilet system. Our toilet system is pretty cut and dry as well. It's toilet. We're going to use it for either number 1 or number 2, right? So number 1, liquids, hit that pedal down at the bottom and flush it down. Now, number 2, solids, we need to fill this bowl up with some water. So to do that, we barely depress that pedal right there to where that ball valve at the bottom is still closed. You'll have some water start to fill up that bowl. Fill it up about halfway, 3/4 of the way, and then flush your system. This is to make sure that there's enough water in that system to help flush those solids down into the black tank. If we don't do that, we can run into some issues with clogging. Now, we also have the option to add water to our black tank from here, or our black tank flush outside, as we talked about, and this is where we want to put our chemicals in our system too. And more important than anything, RV toilet paper only. Do not use anything else, because it will not degrade properly in that tank. It'll get stuck and it'll cause a lot of issues for you. Also, nothing else in this toilet. Your 1, your 2, and toilet paper, and that's it. No other items down this toilet. It will get stuck in that tank and it'll cause you a lot of issues. Also in here we have our GFCI. This is our main outlet for that GFCI. We talked about those GFCI protected outlets outside, and also we have some in our kitchen. If those outlets were to ever stop operating, we want to come to this outlet in here and see if that red light is on. If the red light is on, that is indicating that the system is fault. So we would hit that reset button and see if our system resets. If it doesn't reset, check your outlets outside, see if anything's wet, blow the water out of it, or if you have a bunch of hair dryers, toasters, griddles, whatever plugged into all these outlets, it's going to trip too. So unplug all those items, reset it, plug everything in one at a time, and see if that system will operate. If not, you might have to unplug 1 or 2 items. You do have a red button on there. That red button is our test button. If we want to test our system, we can click that button. It will trip the little breaker on that outlet, and it will cease to operate the other outlets. To reset it, hit that reset button, and the system will go back to working properly. Above that, we have our Girard tankless water heater system. We'll go over the operation of that now. Here we have our Girard tankless water heater control. We have our Celsius Fahrenheit button right here at the top left to swap between the 2 types of temperature. We have our on off button, and we have our up and down that will change the temperature that we have set for our unit. Now once we initiate our hot water, you'll see a couple of things happen. You'll see our temperature up here change to our output temperature, which is the temperature of the water coming out of our tankless water heater system. We'll also see a shower head icon at the bottom right. That shows that water is in use. And then we'll see our fan icon on the bottom left, lets us know that our tankless water heater system is initiating. Once we see the flame that pops up in the middle of our unit, that means that our system is actually heating that water, and we'll see that temperature begin to increase. Now these systems only run for 20 minutes before going into a shutoff mode. In the event that you're still using hot water after that point, just turn the hot water off and turn it back on, and it will reinitiate and begin to heat water again. Lastly, in our bathroom, we do have a 12-volt operated vent up there in the ceiling. It is suggested that you operate that whenever you take showers and stuff in here to help get the humidity out to reduce the opportunity for mold and mildew in your unit. In your bedroom, you'll notice you have your Key TV system for your bedroom TV, as well as that backer to mount that TV. We have our thermostat for our bedroom, our 12-volt switch for our lights, and we also have a little dimmer on there as well. On the front side of our bedroom, we have our front AC. This AC has a filter on it. You would need to either clean or replace that filter regularly to make sure you're not restricting the flow of that AC so it operates properly. And in this front door right here, we have our area where we can install our washer dryer. We're already prepped with our hot and cold lines as well as our drain, and we would cut a hole for our vent for the dryer portion. As we move into our kitchen, we'll notice we open that first cabinet down at the bottom. We open our door, we have our 110 breakers and our 12-volt fuses. This is to control all of our 110 and 12-volt items. All of them are properly labeled which components they operate, so if we have an issue with those components, we want to come here and check this first to see if we have any fuses blown or breakers tripped. You're also going to hear a little fan running behind here. This is for our converter. Our converter is basically a battery charger. Anytime we plug that 50 amp service into anything, that converter is going to kick on and it's going to charge our battery system while we're plugged in. Also notice we have GFCI protected outlets here and here in our kitchen area. What does that mean? That means that in the event they're not working, we want to check that GFCI to make sure it's not tripped. On our kitchen slide out, we have our Samsung refrigerator, residential fridge 110, going to work just like your one at home. We do have our ice machine in here. We talked about that water line outside to be able to drain that water out of there. One thing we need to remember is anytime we have our unit unplugged, obviously this fridge is going to be turned off. We need to make sure we wipe down the refrigerator box in here, as well as wipe down and drain our ice box, our freezer area, get all the water out of there. If any of that ice defrosts in there, it's going to leak out onto the ground. It's going to cause a mess and probably damage some of your wood components. That's not going to be covered by warranty. So make sure we're monitoring that and storing our unit properly. And here we have our residential microwave, and we do have that fan vent under here as well as a light to be able to vent over our stovetop. And remember that vent on the outside, we got to turn those two tabs in order for it to actually vent. Otherwise that air isn't going to go anywhere. Now we have our 3-burner stove right here, this 3-burner stove. We have that glass cooktop right here. That glass cooktop can be closed for more counter space, or when we're traveling, it needs to be down. In order to use our 3-burner stove, flip that up, and we have our burner options right here. We're going to turn it to our little flame indicator right there, and we're going to turn our knob until it lights up. Once it lights up, go ahead and cook. Now, I always suggest to customers, anytime you pull your unit out of storage or you change your propane tanks, you're going to end up with air in your propane system. So when that happens, you want to come to your stove first. So as soon as you take it out of storage or your propane tanks, come to your stove first, light that burner top, because it's going to have air in that system. It's going to take a while for this to light, and that's okay. Once it lights, let it run for about 30 to 60 seconds. Once it does, you should have a nice blue flame on there, and then go operate items like your tankless water heater or your furnace, because if you don't, they're going to go into a fault mode because of those air in the lines, and then you'll have to reset them, do all that business. So come to your stovetop first, do that. Now below that we have our oven. Our oven is a little bit trickier the first time you light it. if you have air in that system. You have your burner down here at the bottom and your pilot. So we're going to go through the steps here. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to turn our knob over here for the oven to that flame right there, and we have to hold down that button, and then we can manually strike it. Or if it's your first time lighting it, you can get a long stem lighter, put it over to that pilot, and wait for it to light. Once that pilot is lit, keep holding that button for another 30 seconds or so. We're warming up that thermocouple, letting it know that that system is lit, and once it is done, then you can let off that knob and go to your temperature. From there, that burner tube should light up. If it doesn't, go back to the flame, relight your pilot, hold it for another 30 seconds, and then try it again. Now, we do have a little switch over here on the side. We'll notice when we turn those knobs, they do go to red rather than blue, even if that switch is off. That is indicating that those knobs are on and gas is being emitted in that system. Now, we also flip it down one more time, and we also have our light down here in the bottom. For entertainment, we do have our TV. Our TV has, once again, that Key TV system. We can swap between antenna, cable, or we have the option for satellite if we have one of those installed. Now, we also have our JBL radio system. A and B controls your zones, interior and exterior. You have Bluetooth connection on there, as well as the ability to scan for your regular radio channels. We also have a 110 operated fireplace. If you don't like the gas heat, you can kick that on. We'll go over the operation of that now. Here we have our fireplace. We have a sensor right up here in the top right. We have to aim that remote at to turn it on. We have our Celsius and Fahrenheit temperature we can change to. And right here, this little flame icon is going to change the dimness of our flame. If we want to change the lighting of our flame, we hit the light bulb on the screen down here at the bottom, and it'll give you some different options right there. If we want to operate our heater on a timer, once again, electric heater, it is going to be this button right here. It looks like a clock, and when we push it, we can see some times pop up: 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, all the way up to 8, and then it will go to 0 hours, letting you know that that timer is off. If we want to change our temperature, we'll use one of these two buttons at the bottom, and we can see once again we have a temperature down there, and we will go ahead and raise it until it kicks on, or lower it, we want it to kick off, or we can keep going until it says on, and that heater will stay running all the time. We kick it up one more time, and it's going to say OF, meaning that that system is off. In your unit, you're also pre-wired for the Winegard 4G LTE system. That is if you want to upgrade that system to a router, and that router will give you Wi-Fi boost at the campground, wherever you're at. You also get HD air channels, and it can also be upgraded with a SIM card from a cellular company to be able to provide you with Wi-Fi wherever you're at. So it's another upgradable option that you can look into. If your unit came equipped with it, you will have that third AC system here in the kitchen area. If not, it may be pre-wired, and you might have a little plate right there. That means that 110 wire is ran, and you can add that AC. Now, this one's a little bit different. You'll have vents on the side. Those vents have screens on the inside. You need to go ahead and clean those screens regularly in order to not restrict the flow of air on that unit. Down at the bottom of your island, you have a COLP detector. This is going to let you know if you have any cautious gases in your unit. If it alarms, you need to go ahead and exit your unit. You need to test this monthly to make sure that alarm works properly. We'll also notice a little green light down here at the bottom. This lets you know that it is powered on. It is a 12-volt operated device. You'll have to have that in order for it to operate. You're also going to notice a date stamped on it on the front, or if you have to unscrew it, it may be on the back side of it. These are good for about 5 years, and you need to change them out. And also for your smoke detector, you'll have to go through the same thing. You want to test that regularly. It's still powered by a 9-volt battery, so you want to change that out regularly to make sure all your safety devices are in order. In your loft area, you'll have that rear AC unit, once again with a filter that needs to be monitored. You also have that Key TV system, and you can hook up another TV in there. In our rear bedroom, we have our bed slide. We also have some storage under the nose of that bed. We have our auxiliary fan right here. That auxiliary fan kicks on, and it helps push AC through here. If our air conditioner is on, this helps ventilate that air into this area. We can kick that off and operate that by that switch right here. Of course, we have our regular light switch, and we also have another key TV system that we can hook up for that bedroom. Our rear bathroom is going to operate just like our middle bathroom. We have our toilet and our shower. Everything is pretty well the same, just no GFCI and no controller for our water heater. Our loft area, we'll see that rear AC. We have another filter there, as well as a mount for our TV and that key TV system.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV SuperStores, where we bring the how-to you.